Some people chase the mainstream. Others crave what hides in shadows. Welcome to Indie Horror Junkie, the home of filmmakers, writers, artists, and fans who live for the strange, the bold, the unapologetically independent. From blood-soaked short films and underground features to creator spotlights, reviews, and horror you won't find anywhere else. No studio filters, no safe bets, just raw imagination and fearless storytelling. If you love horror that takes risks, horror that bleeds passion, horror made by creators who refuse to play it safe, then you're already one of us. Indie Horror Junkie. Feed your fear. Support the underground. Indie Horror Junkie, where independent horror lives and refuses to die.
Welcome to the Indie Horror Junkie Podcast, where nightmares meet the light, shadows entwine. Tonight we dive deep into the horror scene, with Rod and Ricky in the asylum, Amy living the dream. Hear the howl of the night echo in your mind, where the rebels of fright, leaving no soul behind. Movers and shakers, we've got the scoop. Filmmakers and actors, they're part of our group. Indie horror lovers, gather all around, bringing the edge, where true tales are found. With every wound that bleeds, a story to tell. Join us, laugh, where the haunted begins.
Hey, what's up, Lunatic Lance?
What's happening? What's happening? Happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. Amy's out this evening. Lunatic Lance is jumping in, and we got a great show lined up for you with, I won't tell his name just yet. We'll, reveal that later. But of course, if you've been paying attention, you already know. So, as usual, let's go ahead and do some quick housekeeping so we can go ahead and get to our special guest. So first up, let's go ahead and bring up, boom, Dances with Blood. Once again, this challenge is up and running, open for submissions. And what that means by submissions is you register a team. You don't put a video in there. You don't put credits in there. You don't put posters, nothing. Register your team and you're good to go until we have our live broadcast, which is going to give every team on a subgenre, an item, and a line of dialogue they have to use. And then you've got 2 weeks to create a 10-minute film to enter our competition. And first place is a beautiful trophy, as you see right there.
Oh, yeah.
Full write-up in the Indie Horror Junkie magazine, multiple film festival entries, and $1,000 cash prize. Can't beat that with a stick.
No, it's a good deal right there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. We're going to get as much exposure for everybody as we can. Next up, we've got the Indie Horror Junkie newsletter, which began a couple of months ago. It goes out on the 1st of every month, updating everybody on what's happening with junkies everywhere. So make sure you send us your email if you want to get included, or if you buy a magazine or anything from us, we add your email to it, and you'll be getting it out on the 1st of every month. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, we have the latest issue. Came out the 13th of this month. It's got Boogeyman on the cover.
Very
and
nice.
This is interesting to say, too, because Boogeyman was actually filmed at the most haunted house in Florida, which is known as the May Stringer House in Brooksville.
Interesting. I know something else is about to happen down there.
Yes, it is. Nice little segue there, sir. Let's go and bring that up. Boom. Clock, Bells, Bells, which is the sequel to my original film, The Clock, which is currently streaming everywhere. It won multiple awards out there. We're doing a short film sequel, which is this, Hell's Bells. It's going to pick up where the original film left off and lead into a possible third film big finale, which will be a feature film called The Clock Judgment Day. But
Woo!
we're at the May Stringer house on location. So if we get possessed, we may have to miss the following podcast. So don't worry about that. Let's see. What else do we have here? I think, is that pretty much it? No. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Look at that. The Halloween Horror Picture Show, which is also sponsored by Indie Horror Junkie. This is coming up on Halloween Day from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we did those times specifically so people can get out on time in case they still want to do their trick-or-treating or all that good stuff. They can come out, enjoy with us. We're going to be screening Speed Demon, which we're going to talk all about today with our special guest. We'll be doing the world premiere of The Clock Hell's Bells. And get this, Henrietta Blood from Dances with Blood is making a live appearance. You heard it here. A live appearance or unalive appearance. Either way, she'll be there in the flesh, okay, for photo ops. And then, of course, we'll also be releasing the Dr. Feargood versus Henrietta Blood comic book that David Summey is going to be there as well, so we can autograph it for you. We'll have that. There'll be vendors, photo ops, giveaways, and if you bring an unopened toy, we're doing a toy drive for the Joshua House. Bring every unopened toy you bring, you'll get a raffle ticket, and we're going to be putting together a really, really cool horror gift bag together for you guys, and we'll be doing drawings throughout the night, so we'll have a lot of fun with that.
That is awesome.
Now that I've got all that out as quickly as possible, let's go ahead and get to our special guest. This is a guy that I have known and basically harassed him for 20 plus years. Proud to know him. He probably couldn't pick me out of a lineup, but it's okay. It's all right. I get that all the time. My mom does the same thing. But still, all right, his name is Jon Keeyes. He's the writer, director, producer, jack of all trades, and he just informed us that he is right now at a hotel room because he's doing like 7 movies at the same time. Four movies at the same time?
4 movies at the same time, working 17-hour days.
He is
insane.
As much as he's tired.
The guy is a machine.
I love it. I love it. He's something to aspire to. So, without further ado, what we're going to do is we're going to show you the trailer for his newest movie, which is called Speed Demon, which just came out recently, and you will be able to see it at the Halloween Horror Picture Show, as I said, and it stars the amazing William H. Macy. So, let's check out the trailer, and then we'll bring Jon Keeyes on for you guys to pick at.
Attention passenger.
There was a time I had high hopes for you, the brightest of all my students.
I'm sorry, Father. I was at a restaurant.
You can't even tell a good lie. Look at yourself. You're a mess. You reek of smoke and alcohol. The sisterhood has pushed you out. I'm the last person giving you a chance.
That's creepy.
A weird gift, right?
It's Asmodeus, the king of demons, and it's a demon of revenge.
Exorcisms? Like, for real.
What did you see?
Something's wrong.
We're going too fast!
It's Asmodeus, the demon who took your father. He's come for you. God the Father commands you.
I'm gonna save every soul on this train.
Yeah, there we go.
That looks awesome. I can't wait to see that.
So I think it's safe to say we're not going to see that one on the Hallmark Channel, right? Probably not.
I never get tired of watching that.
Yeah, that looks really good, man. I'm really looking forward to it. I missed the special showing a couple weeks ago through Tarot Cards. I was so disappointed, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been that movie. It's been so fun. The reactions from it have been so great. It's one of the that's so funny is you direct a movie and you edit it and you end up watching it 300 times, before it actually comes out. And I don't get tired of watching it.
That's awesome. And there's Tarot Cards themselves. Yeah. All right.
It looks. I did get a chance to see like 90% of it because I took part of that in that screening that you did with Tarot Cards. Did you get a chance to sit in there and see how that worked?
Oh yeah, no, I was there. I was there for the whole thing.
Okay, because I was telling Lance about it. It was so funny because when you first get in, it looked like a video game. You're sitting there like in an arena, and the screen's up there, you got little people walking around.
It's totally bizarre, but so completely cool. I had done Previn and Tarot Cards had done that for American Nightmare a year or two ago, also just as a retro. But yeah, it's fun. It's an animated theater auditorium setting, and you can watch it on the screen, or you can bring it full screen. And then Previn did raffles and giveaways at the end of the movie. It was a blast.
Yeah, then I heard the Q&A and stuff afterwards. That was so cool. I've just never seen that format before. I felt like I was in a video game. It was so cool.
And shout out to Tarot Cards because I got my physical Katie Cassidy signed card. I got it yesterday. So
nice.
and I apparently there's one with you and her on there. So now I got to go and get the other one too.
Yep. We did the her card, and then we did the poster card.
Yeah, because Previn sent me a couple of them as well, so we can go ahead and give those away over at the Halloween Horror Picture Show. Let me bring that up there. I've got these right here. Look at that.
There we go.
Cool. Those will be given away at the Halloween Horror Picture Show, so make sure you show up. Yep. All right, so let's get into this here. All right. Like I said, I was telling you before, and I was telling Lance, I've known of you and have chatted with you and stuff since 2002, because isn't that when American Nightmare was?
Yeah, so American Nightmare came out in 2001. Or sorry. 2001. It came out in January of 2001. And then I think we started chatting after it came out, but before I did Suburban Nightmare and Hallow's End. So I think, 2001, maybe early 2002.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly back then, that's when I was the editor-in-chief for Sirens of Cinema magazine. And I think we did an article on that in there, and I'm also friends with Debbie Rashan as well, with that whole crew, Debbie and Brink. Have you worked with Brink, by the way?
So Brink's in American Nightmare also. It's funny. And, American Nightmare actually, in a way, happened because of Brink. I was an entertainment journalist, and I had written a screenplay, American Nightmare, thinking that I would just sell it. And I had been friends with Brink as a journalist. And so I asked her to give it a read. And she was like, you should just go make this yourself. And I was like, oh, sure. Why not? And so that's actually how American Nightmare happened. And then Brink does a cameo. She's the little girl's mom in the movie.
What a crazy story that is, because that is the exact same thing that happened to me. My very first movie was called The Web of Darkness, and my whole plan was to write it and sell it because I had no idea how to make a movie. But my friends read it and said, no, we should make this ourselves. So we went ahead and did, and the movie starred Brink Stevens. How crazy is that?
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, I love Brink to death. But yeah, I always say that I'm a director because of Brink.
Yep, and Brink is actually coming down in September to film a major role in The Clock Hell's Bell. So I'm so excited to see her again. I love that woman to death.
Oh yeah,
everything's coming full circle.
I'm telling you. And here's a picture from American Nightmare with the beautiful Debbie Rashan.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. Love Debbie.
And then, of course, I want to chat about this movie here, Cult Killer. Not just because I heard it's a good movie and I saw the pictures and stuff for it, but it stars Antonio Banderas. How cool was it to work with Antonio?
So I love Antonio. I've actually directed Antonio 3 times now. So I directed him. I directed him in Codename Banshee, and he's amazing. I mean, he's just, the nicest guy in the world. And it's fascinating. I've always loved him as an actor, but he when you're actually on set with him, you realize what a master of his craft he actually is. And it was pretty spectacular. So we did Codename Banshee, and then the producers of that movie had pitched him like a 2-picture package, and they sent 10 scripts. And Antonio came back and was like, well, is Jon directing any of these? And they said, yeah, these 2, Cult Killer being one of the 2, the other one being Cleanup Crew. And he goes, done. Those are the 2 I'm doing.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah. So yeah, he's great. And we're trying to work on a 4th movie now together also.
Awesome. Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
So getting back to what you were just saying, because I think you were telling me, but you basically began as an entertainment journalist before transitioning into filmmaking, right?
Yep. I never intended to be a filmmaker. I wasn't that kid that, made short films, and I didn't go to film school or any of that. I was going to be a writer. Writing was what I wanted to do my whole life. But yeah, once I made American Nightmare, I'm like, oh, this is what this is all about. And I can never stop.
Well, your first film there turned out a hell of a lot better than mine. I'll tell you that right now. I was still bitten by the bug even after that train wreck.
Yeah,
right.
It was amazing. It was amazing. I can tell you the moment I knew I would never be able to do anything but directing again. And because we didn't know what we were doing when we made the movie. Brain had said you should make it. I said okay. I went to a buddy of mine and I said, I want to do this. Do you want to do this with me? And he said sure. And we gave ourselves a year to figure it all out. And almost a year to the day is when we started filming. But I hired a professional DP, editor, sound mixer, and then literally everybody else were friends. And most of them still work in the industry, but everybody was friends. And it was all friends and family's money to make the movie. And I remember after day 1, I was so exhausted, and I went home and I was just like, I've made the worst mistake of my life. Everybody hates me. We went, I'm going to blow everybody's money, that whole thing. And I showed up for set the next day, day 2, and I got out of my car. Crew was already there. They were lighting for an exterior scene, and they're joking and they're laughing and they're having fun. And I just literally just stood at my car and was like, nope, I didn't make a bad choice. And I never turned back from that.
That's outstanding. And you said you filmed American Nightmare in 2001, right?
So we actually filmed it in 99. So
Okay.
we filmed it. We started filming on October 4th, 99. And then it came out January 2001.
Okay. All right. Because that's when I filmed Web of Darkness, was in 2001, and how I got started. Outstanding. Okay, so we just mentioned Antonio Banderas, but also we find out that you've also worked with John Malkovich.
Yep, I've done 2 with John as a I'm trying to think. I've done 2 with John as a director and 2 as a producer. And
He's
so
one of my all-time favorites.
Oh, and he's incredible. He's amazing. Talk about such a pro, such an incredible pro. We had talked before we made the movie, but we hadn't actually met until he actually got to set for his first day of filming. That was when we first met in person for the first time. And he's just very interesting, because to meet him in person, he's a regular guy, and then you put him in front of a camera, and there's a charisma. And I've seen it with very few actors, but there's a charisma that comes through on camera that literally my producer and I were standing there in front, watching him over the monitor as we're rehearsing, and I'm like, And then we both look down at the monitor and we're like, wait, is that the same person? Like it's an energy, and he's such a sweet man, and he's master of his craft, and we're in touch all the time. And same again, we're trying to put some more stuff together. But yeah, I love him to death.
That's good to hear, because sometimes you hear about these actors that are larger than life like that or whatever it is, and they come in there and they want to take over the set and do their thing and run you over and stuff. So it's so nice to hear about people like that, of that stature, that come in there and they're just like, rah, rah, let's do it, and get behind you and support you. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the things that I found amazing, between the two of them, between Antonio and Jon. So with Jon, because he's got such a huge theater background as well, and I didn't know what I'm about to say until the first movie, but he memorizes the entire script before he gets there. Like everybody, he's got the entire script memorized. And so he doesn't read sides when they get, each morning they get their script sides for the day. Jon doesn't read them because he's already got the script memorized. So the first day, halfway through the day, we started rehearsing where he's got a long monologue. And I was like, oh, wait, you didn't get the sides because that changed. And he's like, oh, I know, because I already had the script memorized. And so I just held up my script and he goes, give me 30 seconds. And I held up my script. It's entirely new dialogue. He reads it for 30 seconds and goes, okay, I got it. And we shot it. But from then on, I knew, because I'm one of those people, I'm tweaking a script constantly, you know, but I knew for the rest of that shoot. And then the second movie I did with Jon, and then with the writers on the other ones, I was like, lock his dialogue at least a week or two before he shows up, because he's going to have the entire script memorized.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's super impressive.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's incredible. And then with Antonio, because of course he's Spanish, you know, and English is not his first language. He thinks in Spanish. And in Cleanup Crew, he's got a ton of dialogue in Cleanup Crew. And so we would go through the rehearsals, and his assistant would just speak the English dialogue to him, you know, during the rehearsals. And we'd only rehearse the scene once or twice, but he would get, you know, he'd hear it once or twice in his ear in English, and then basically boom, as soon as those cameras are rolling, that's gone, never there during when we're filming. And he just memorizes dialogue that fast in a different language.
Wow.
That's it. I've heard things about him on set as well, so I would love to work with him one day. He's one of my favorite actors. He's just such a fun guy, and he was perfect for Zorro. I can't think of anybody else. You know, he was the man. And I've watched Zorro since I was a kid.
So, Jon, how much are you involved in the casting process, since you've worked with so many of these different actors on multiple different films? Is it you wanting to work with them, or them wanting to work with you, or a combination of both? Or
when it started, when I got to start working with those bigger name actors, it was more of because I mean, we made Rogue Hostage, which was the first movie I did with Jon. It was either the second or third film actually that went into production after COVID. And so that was one where we had we had a relationship with one of the agencies, and we're like, okay, here's what we're doing. Nobody knows what they're doing because of COVID protocols. So who would work for this, and who and they sent us a list, and then I got to go through the list with the producers, because of course, you know, it's a combination of who's right for the movie, who's good for the financing. And so, you know, it's a back and forth until you kind of get there. But Jon, for Jon's role, Jon was the first person we went to. It ends up being, it's usually, when I'm directing, it's a combination of working with the producers, and like we just said, we create a whole big list. Who do you like for the role? Okay, this person's good for the financing of what this movie is. And you kind of whittle it down until you kind of get into a short list, and then you start going after those people. And then I've done some movies where we've now gotten a relationship with a lot of those bigger agents. And so, you know, when they know that there's a movie, they start pitching clients as well.
That's nice.
So have you worked with William H. Macy or Katie Cassidy before doing Speed Demon?
No. And funny enough, so Katie was already attached to the movie when I got brought on to direct it.
Oh, okay.
So she was a producer on the movie, and she was already attached to it. And one of the producers, he and I had done 3 or 4 movies together, just producing. And when he got brought into Speed Demon, is like, well, if we're going to do this, if I'm going to come in on this, then I need Jon to direct it. And so that's how I read the script. I didn't actually even know Katie was involved until after I read. They just wanted me to read the script. Is this something you want to do? Let's talk about it. And they were like, okay, so we're talking Katie. And the funny thing was because I knew Katie from Arrow. As I was reading the script, I thought about Katie. I was like, man, somebody like Katie would be phenomenal for Sister Lou. And so then, so of course, then they're like, okay, so we're looking to Katie's involved, and I was like, holy shit. I was like that,
That's exactly what I saw in my head.
Yeah. And so Katie and I hit it off, and we're great friends now. And we've got some other projects we're doing together also. And then Bill, it was funny, and I didn't know this until later. So once again, the producers came in with a list, and they're like, would you be happy with these people? And we whittled it down, and I was like, great. And they're like, okay, so Bill wants to talk. And I had my call with Bill, And it was great. Once again, super sweet guy, such a gentleman, master of his craft, the whole thing. So we found out. So when he flew in for filming, the night before, 2 days before, he and I and Katie all went out to dinner just to talk, get to know each other, talk about the script. And Bill started laughing at some point, and he's like, I didn't want to do the movie. He goes, he said, he's like, I'm at the point where I don't know if I want to keep doing violent films. And so he's like, it had nothing to do. He's like, I hadn't read it yet. He's like, I knew it was a horror movie, and I didn't really want to do violent films. And I think it was his daughter. He's like, my daughter took the script and read it and came back. It was like, Dad, this thing is so fun. You've got to do the movie. And so he then read the script because of it. And that's when we had our conversation and stuff. But yeah, I didn't even know that until he got there.
That's so cool.
Great.
As far as Casey goes, whatever. I mean, I'll just say it here right now, but that is the most beautiful nun I think I have ever seen in my life. Just put that out there.
Absolutely. Yep. No, but it's so funny that she turned out to be the one. Yeah, because I had her and that image, that style and that energy and everything in my head to then find out it was going to be Katie.
Well, I mean, sometimes you just read a script and you can just tell from the character on the pages. You're like, I've got an idea of a person that would be perfect for this. Yeah. She's a certified badass to begin with.
God,
so.
Yeah. And after all of these years, it's funny is when I started off directing, and honestly, for half my career, I do that. You read the script, you're like, okay, who would I want in this role, and who would I, and you learn as you kind of get into the bigger movies how much financing is going to dictate who you can cast.
Yeah.
And I had to train myself not to do that. And so I very rarely read any script anymore where I put actors to characters. And sometimes it's detrimental because then a producer who's trying to hire me is like, so who would you cast? And I'm like, I have no idea yet. Because I've had to untrain myself so that I am open to ideas when we start talking about casting. But Katie was one of those rare exceptions where in the last number of years, where that happened.
And with me, even well before I became a filmmaker, when I was very young, I used to read all the time. I would always have to have a book and then have another book ready. So as soon as I finished this book, I could jump into this book. And when I read these books in my head, I was always casting actors that I've seen on TV or in the movies in those roles. It made it easier for me to really get into certain stories and stuff like that, knowing that I've got this incredible cast. Now, of course, when I became a filmmaker like you, I mean, I imagine certain people in certain roles all the time. I just can't afford any of them. So I try to get other people, But one day I'll be able to afford one of them.
Right. That's the goal. That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Exactly. Well, and I always joke, I mean, it's just going to sound weird to say, but I feel truly blessed because of COVID. Because I was working, I started in 99 and I'd worked I'd done plenty of movies, indie movies, things like that, but had never had the opportunity to work with a big name actor. And COVID is what actually changed that. And then once I did, that suddenly opened up the door with agents to take me seriously, to be able to start working with sort of that level of name.
Yeah. COVID was a really crazy time. I mean, I remember we were on set filming a short film called Blood Money. And it's like then the next day, basically, everything was shut down. We were told we couldn't go out of the house. We couldn't go gather with people, nothing. So I remember, and I used to post this on Facebook, that as a creative, you're going nuts because you just want to do something. It's all this bogged up in here. So during that time, I created one of those old-time radio horror shows called No Sleep Tonight. I'd write the scripts myself, add the music, create special effects or sound effects, send the script off to actors and actresses, get them to send me their audio, and I was making my own little show, so at least this way I get busy. How was it for you in the midst of all that? How did that change things, and how did you adapt and work around that?
So, funny enough, I was in Alabama producing a movie called Castle Falls. We were the last movie in production during COVID. So I got a call. We went to camera in March. Of course, California was already closed down. New York was closed down. Everybody's talking about they're going to close the borders, blah, blah, blah. And we started rolling cameras, whatever it was, a Wednesday. And literally at 7:00 in the morning, SAG is blowing my phone up. And they're like, you are literally, at least as far as SAG movies go, you are literally the last movie filming. There's nobody else in the country filming. Shut down. And the group itself wouldn't shut down. And by noon, so the SAG was calling everybody, including the county health commissioner, and unbeknownst to us where we were at, they were going to then go into lockdown on Friday. So the health department came out and like, technically you can keep working, but Friday we're going into lockdown like the rest of the country. You might as well just shut down. And so that's what we did. But, you know, to your point, I got involved with the organizations that kind of created the COVID protocols for when we were able to come back. I was involved in some of that, and I used it, honestly, I used it for writing. I spent a lot of time writing. I spent a lot of time developing scripts. We all knew it was going to eventually end. And so the different producers I worked with, we were working on developing what projects we were going to do and knowing at some point it's going to lift. And yeah, I stayed creative through writing, basically.
Very cool. So like we talked about, you guys started basically back in 1999. Okay, 20 plus years or whatever. Let's talk about like American Nightmare compared to Speed Demon. When obviously you did that first film, okay, and this was something that you, like you said, you weren't prepared to be a filmmaker. You just got into it and all that stuff. How, and obviously you've done so many films in between. Give us some idea basically on what the differences is now as compared to then. What kind of crew you had then, how you were able to get past a lot of the obstacles or whatever, because as indie horror, you always have obstacles compared to now where you've got probably a seasoned team and you've got casting agents sending you actors and stuff. Because we have a lot of filmmakers that watch this as well. So give us some insight on how the differences are.
I mean, I've been asked that question before, and in certain ways, nothing's changed. In certain ways, meaning that, even on American Nightmare, it was a green crew because it was all friends, but everybody took it seriously enough so that when we started filming, they had learned. It was obviously a smaller crew than what we work with now. Every level you are at, I don't, even beyond, because I mean, I've line produced and stuff, $15-20 million movies. Every tier, we'll call it, every tier has its own inherent set of problems. So like money solves one thing, but it doesn't solve another, because then, the higher budget you get, the more financing and actor dependent becomes, and then if you start getting into studios and certain distributors, then they've got their say, they can change things. You have to do this and you have to do that. So you begin to exchange problems. So the challenges, the number of challenges don't change. It's just what the challenge is changes, and it's still, even at the indie level, even at this indie level where we're working with these it's still very fast shoots. I mean, a lot of these productions are only 12 to 15 day productions. Oh, wow. So they're still very fast shoots. Granted, you've got maybe, a more seasoned crew, people who've been around longer. We tend to carry a lot of the people from movie to movie to movie because we all know a shorthand together. Yep. But you're then complicating it with finance plans and distribution and how are we going to make sure we hit strike price with with what the budget we have is. And and a lot of times at this level, the luxury of doing the indies that we had done early on was, okay, let's go out, let's figure out the financing, let's raise the money. Okay, now we've got it, let's go make the movie. This more often than not becomes, here's when this actor's available, go. And you've got to literally figure out everything, I mean, I've been brought on to movies as a line producer. I've been brought on to movies where I got called on a Saturday and they're like, yeah, and we have to be filming a week from Monday. And so we figured out how to put a movie into production in 6 days, wow. with big name actors in it. So yeah, and then I was, as a director, I was always a fan, and still am, of Tony Scott. And and I got the opportunity to meet
Tony Scott.
Yeah, and I got the opportunity to meet Tony, and got to pick his brain a little bit. And he used to carry around in his vest. He used to carry around a little notebook, and he was like, I keep notes in there about how I'm doing. And he goes, at the end of the movie, at the end of every movie, And this is like Man on Fire era. So he's one of the most successful directors ever, but he's like, at the end of the movie, I go through my notebook and I look for the 10 things that I could have done better and need to learn about myself before I do the next movie.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, that's really incredible. And so
it is not a coincidence that like 3 of my top 10 favorite movies are all Tony Scott.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. And so, as a filmmaker, it's things change and circumstances change, and every movie you do or I do, has a new set of challenges that I've never experienced before. And, it's compiling knowledge in learning from the past and learning what I learned today. So, for anybody listening, it's not so much about, doing a higher budget movie suddenly makes everything easier. You're just changing one set of problems or challenges for another set of challenges.
Yeah. And as far as the indie, to me, the essence of indie filmmaking is, as an indie filmmaker, you don't have the studio backing, you don't have warehouses to shoot in or places. You can't throw money at every single problem. It's finding a problem, finding a solution, overcoming it, and moving on and getting everything you can done. So
yeah, that's 100% it. Yeah,
really,
you have a finite budget. You still have to, whether it's 500,000, 3 million, 10 million, you still have a finite budget. You have to make it all within that.
Yeah, and it sounds like your first film experience, if you could put it on a map somewhere, then the polar opposite would have been mine. Because day one of my shoot, we didn't have our sound guys show up, so we were learning how to capture sound. Now knowing that sound is more important than video, our DP was basically a still photographer, so he spent the entire movie eliminating shadows. Come to find out, you're supposed to utilize shadows. So I think I learned everything you could learn 3 times during the making of that movie, and I still wanted to be a filmmaker. So I'm here to stay.
That's amazing. When I was making American Nightmare and learning, I got introduced to who was Bob Castaldo, who ended up being my editor, but I got introduced to him before I got introduced to anybody else. And so Bob became a little bit of a mentor during that process of making it. And, he was like, okay, I'm a professional editor. He goes, you need to hire a professional DP, trust me. And he goes, you need to hire a professional sound mixer. He goes, bad picture, bad lighting, bad video, you can always figure out a way to turn that into art, but bad sound is just bad sound.
Yeah, it's funny too, because it's like one of my pet peeves when I do like the film reviews is always audio. If there's audio blooms, audio glitches, if it's out of sync, if the ADR is out of whack, I'm just like, it's like there's audio issues. It's the first thing that detracts me from the actual film itself. Yep. It always is.
100%, absolutely. And Brad Harper is who I ended up hiring. Brad and I became very good friends, and we did the first half of my career. Brad was the sound mixer, the entire time through all of that until I ended up all over the country and stuff. And Brad and I, funny enough, I've got another movie I'll be directing hopefully before the end of the year, but I'm bringing Brad back out for that, But yeah, good sound makes all the difference in the world.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, it is a huge pet peeve of mine. It will immediately destroy a film for me.
So let me ask you this, because you have performed pretty much every duty, from writer, producer, like you said, line producer, director, and everything else. Is there any one particular area that you find is your favorite that you would, if you had to choose, hey, I can only do this for the rest of my life? Is there?
Directing. There's absolutely no hesitation in answer. 100% directing. I love writing. I love producing. I love line producing. I love editing. I love all of those. I love anything. And I end up producing now more than I direct, and that's great. It's a different part of my brain that I'm using, and I get, I really get into it. But if somebody like you said, what's the one, if you could only do one, what would it be? And 100% directing, because I started this to be a storyteller. That's why I wanted to do it. From writing into directing, it's still storytelling, and that's why I did it. And then I fell in love with working with actors and developing characters and bringing that story to life on film. You don't get to do that so much, obviously, when you're producing. So every opportunity I get to direct, I'm always taking it.
That's the way I feel. I pretty much, as an independent filmmaker, you wear many hats to begin with. So I'm always doing everything. But if I had to choose one thing, it's just directing, because like you said, it's your vision, it's your story. And to me, that's probably the one incredible thing that I could say about independent film as opposed to studio films that is a positive, is that you get to tell your story. So many times with those studio films, you give them the cut, they end up recutting it. I don't know how many times you hear about directors saying that wasn't my vision, or we're going to see a director's cut later. With an independent film, it's your baby. That's why directed by is always the last credit on screen, because it's supposed to be your vision. So that's
well, and you'll know this. I mean, the biggest battle with any movie, if you've got financiers and other producers and all that involved, regardless of who's making a bad decision, who's making a bad choice, who's putting something bad on you, at the end of the day, everybody's going to blame it on the director also.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's, so I want to, if I'm going to make mistakes, I want to be the one who made those mistakes. I don't want to be blamed for somebody else's.
Totally agree. Let me ask you another question that along these lines. I know that we talked about the different jobs and stuff that you've held in a film, but have you ever managed to sneak yourself on screen, or is there like no idea you ever do? Because I try to do that all the time, because I have a face for radio, but I get on screen anyway,
I do not like the way I look on camera, nothing whatsoever. And what's funny is, I did theater growing up. I did theater through high school. I did theater early on after high school. I was actually one movie that I ended up directing. I was the line producer for it. The director asked me for one of the primary roles. The director asked me to step in and read with another actor, and suddenly, in the middle of I'm doing this, the director starts just looking at me, and she's like, "You're that character. You're exactly who I want to cast in that role." And I was like, "Okay, cool, sure, why not?" And then everything changed, and I ended up directing the movie. But I stuck myself in as in cameos, background and stuff like that. But I get so hyper focused on performance that I don't feel like I've got that brain that would allow me to act while also trying to direct.
Good point.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's actually a really wise decision. I've seen some movies where, the director is also starring, and you can't focus on both things equal enough to make a good actor or director. You're just mediocre at both.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Now, there are some that have, though. Clint Eastwood's one and stuff like that. So there are some, but that's definitely an exception to the rule.
Well, I think he's got a very unique filmmaking style that allows him to be able to do that. Some of the independent stuff I've seen, it's often, if the director's also starring, I feel like if they would have focused on either acting or directing, the film would have probably turned out better than it had.
Totally agree. Yeah, I've seen that enough times. Yeah, I think Clint and Mel and some of those people, there's some exceptions to the rules, but more often than not, I'm like, yeah, you should have cast yourself.
But speaking of filmmaking styles, is there any particular filmmaker that you've tried to pattern yourself after, like as a director or anything like that, or you pretty much just created your own process system and you go with that?
So it's funny. I think that question, I turned the corner on that when I made The Harrowing. So prior to that, Hitchcock, John Carpenter, obviously, not obviously, but Spielberg, but there are a lot of directors. American Nightmare is most definitely, you can feel the Hitchcock vibe. You can feel the Carpenter vibe. I even homaged Carpenter by having Halloween in the movie playing on television. Which out of really weird, we actually got permission from Compass to do it for free.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I wrote it in the movie, and then somebody's like, you got to get permission for that. I was like, oh. And so my producer, Rick, he's like, I don't know how to do this. So let me just track down. And he talked to Mustafa and was like, yeah, we're doing this movie and blah, blah, blah. And how does this work? And Mustafa's like, send me over a contract. I'm going to do it for free. And Rick is like, seriously? He goes, I literally spend every day suing people for using Halloween without permission. The fact that you even called and asked, I'm just going to give it to you.
That's a great story.
And that's the perfect, you don't know unless you ask.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But so much, it's funny is so much of that early career, I was homaging people. Because I'm still was finding my feet as a director. And I was heavily influenced because I'd watched so many movies. Like, okay, I want the movie to be this vibe, so I'm going to watch that movie. And I found myself over years falling into the pattern of making somebody else's movie. And so when we made The Harrowing, Matt Tompkins was my producing partner. He also starred in the movie. And Matt's like, I want this to be 100% your movie. Do not let this be, stop watching other people's movies. Stop thinking about other directors. This needs to be 100% your movie. Take everything you've learned and put it into this. And that's sort of where I stopped trying to model myself after, so I still have to very consciously not watch movies before I get into production. My DP and I will pull up movies for color reference, and maybe, stylistic reference, but once again, never, I already know it in my head before we get there. So now I'm just giving you frames of reference. We're not sitting and watching movies and stuff. So I try. So one of the, it's kind of funny. I mean, I'm not a Spielberg and I'm not a Tim Burton and I'm not those guys. And that's fine. I know who I am. But when producers are like, so, whose movie would this be like? I'm like, me. I don't, I understand.
It's my movie.
Yeah. I mean, I get where they're coming from and I understand what they're trying to ask for because they need a frame of reference. But I've so tried to remove myself from that to let these just be my movies now. It becomes difficult to answer that question anymore. And I'm good with that.
So let me ask you this, though, to tail off of that, because so many times you can name a director and they have like a certain thing they do. Like Michael Bay has the 360, whatever it is, and Steven Spielberg has certain little things that's a Spielberg thing or something like that. Is there anything that you do that's like almost like, I wouldn't say your trademark, but something that you try to do in every movie, or you just don't consciously even think about something like that?
I don't consciously. There was a period of time I love split diopter. And so there was a period of time where we put split diopter in every movie. And just because I love the style of it. I think the joke now, my DP and I joke about this. My stamp on it is I do confined movies with 5 actors, or I do movies that all take place in 24 hours. That's not my place. No,
not intentionally, but that's my style.
Yeah, I mean, I've had, and I can't think of. I've had people that know me and know my movies well tell me certain things that they've seen as a pattern of mine, and I couldn't consciously tell you what those things were. And because part of it also is that with every movie I make, I'm interested in telling a different story, and trying something new out. Even Tony talked about that. Tony Scott talked about that. He's like, I don't want to make the same movies. And of course, once he did Man on Fire, that sort of color vibe he did became a stamp for a while, and then he moved himself out of that. So yeah, I want to approach something. Every movie I want to approach with something new, a new style, a new idea. I do love handheld, so I shoot a lot of handheld because I just love the look of it. But I don't think there is that one signature thing anymore. I don't go there anymore in my head consciously, at least.
So you shoot all digital, or do you shoot on film, or both?
I've shot on film, but I haven't shot. I'm trying to think the last time I actually shot on film. Probably late 2008, 2009. But yeah, no, I shoot everything. We shoot a lot with the Reds. We shoot Red Minis a lot. Okay. Or the Lexus, but we shoot the Minis a lot. But yeah, everything we shoot nowadays is digital. I would love to shoot a 35 millimeter movie again. And I joke particularly with younger people that are on set. Because when I made American Nightmare, digital didn't exist yet. So we shot it on Super 16. And then when I did Suburban Nightmare, the first HD camera had just come out. And there was a rental house in Texas that got the first camera in, and they called and said, hey, we know you're about to start this movie. Would you want to try HD and shoot it on HD? And my DP at the time we were like, sure. And like, there's one guy in the country that actually knows how to run the menus on the camera. And we sat with menus and manuals and on the phone and trying to figure out, that kind of thing. But I joke with young people now. I'm like, I want everybody to have shot on film once to hear the sound of money running through a camera.
Right. There goes my film stock.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating thing, and I'm grateful that I started there because it's not, you don't just get, with film, you don't get just to turn on the camera and make it up as you go. And you don't get to just, you've got, everybody has to be on their A game when that camera starts rolling. And it's a very different mentality. And I remember I did a movie called Element in Oklahoma where I was talking with my DP and gaffer and first AC, all young guys, never got to shoot on film. And we had this conversation. And about a year after that, the DP and the gaffer did another movie together. It was 35. And they called me and they laughed and like, wow, how you think about filmmaking entirely changes when you can't just keep that camera running. So yeah, but I like digital. I like I tend to have a slight stylistic choice with color. I like the things that I can do with digital at these budgets. If I was Christopher Nolan, hell yeah, I'd be shooting film.
Didn't he just shoot the movie The Odyssey? Wasn't that all on IMAX?
Oh yeah, he only shoots film. But yeah, that was on IMAX. Jesus. Yeah, Spielberg still shoots film. Everybody's got their style. It's me, my DP and I, we've done 6 movies together. We plan on continuing, and our style, our vibe and the way we work together, digital works best for us.
Very cool. I mean, I go back and watch these chat shows that have some of the filmmakers and some of the actors on there because they always tell some of the great stories. And Matt Damon was on one show where he told the story about working with Jack Nicholson on that film. What the heck was the name of that film?
Oh, The Departed.
The Departed, yeah. And then Jack went into they were talking about the one scene where they're out and where they execute those 2 people in the sand. And the way Jack was telling him says, yeah, well, why don't we do this? And you can do this here. And then you can cut right there. Or if you leave the camera rolling, I'll do this. And we can cut right there. Or if you leave the camera rolling. So it's like
it's funny. I actually learned. So when I was studying to direct in that year, I was just devouring books. Of course, it's pre-internet. And Sidney Lumet's book on filmmaking, on making movies, he talked about that. And he talked about, he's like, I never, just because I say cut, I don't want it to end. I will, he's like, I will usually, everybody knows where the scene ends. And I'm just going to sit there patiently for a few beats. And if you've got something more you then want to do it. And then, so I was like, oh, that's an interesting choice. And I talked with my editor about it. He's like 100%. He goes, it's so often, so many of the reaction shots, particularly on indies where you're moving so fast. He's like, so many of my reaction shots come from the very end. And so one of the things I also learned, because I started to edit, not to edit my own movies, but just to understand editing. And, I always give my first ACs instructions. I'm like, the scene's going to end. I'm going to wait a beat to see if they want to do anything else. I'm going to say cut, but you don't cut the cameras. Keep rolling for another 5 seconds. And a lot of times we pull out of that, the actors don't always break character. They slide out of the character. And there's a lot of times you can get beautiful, unintentional reactions out of those little 3 seconds.
That's great. Oh, we got a comment here. Let's bring that up. From Corey Clement. American Nightmare was super solid. Memories of the later years of video stores. I miss video stores so much.
I know, I do too. I remember, because it came out, and I mean, I've even got VHS copies of it.
Wow.
Yeah, because it was just DVD and it was VHS. And I remember getting to walk into Blockbuster for the first time to see American Nightmare there, and the mom and pop video stores. I think Borders Books back then, going in and seeing it on the shelves there and stuff. Yeah, I miss those days. I really miss those days.
Let me ask you a question then. Because the big thing right now is that physical media supposedly is disappearing. Best Buy doesn't carry it hardly anymore at all. Walmart's even getting rid of it a lot. But to me, I can't see it ever disappearing because they said the same thing about vinyl when CDs came out, remember? And then a couple of years ago, vinyl outsold CDs. Yep. I don't see it ever disappearing, especially when it comes to the independent filmmakers, because that's our bread and butter. Every convention we go to, set up the table, they've got DVDs, VHSs. What do you think about that? Do you think it's...
No, I feel the same way. I'm still an avid collector. I love physical media. What I particularly love seeing, and that's probably been over the last 4 or 5 years, where we've seen, all of the specialty companies. I mean, I know they've been around for a long time, but you've seen more and more of the specialties coming up with the special editions, collector editions, so you may not be able to walk into a Blockbuster or even jump on Amazon and necessarily order a DVD or a Blu-ray anymore. But I love seeing everybody trying to put out special editions to keep that media alive. I mean, we got blessed, a couple of years ago, American Nightmare Special Collector's Edition, 25th anniversary, Terror put it out, and we got to do all new documentaries for it, and Debbie and I did a new commentary for it, and I still love the physical media, and I'm glad that there is enough fan base up for it to keep it alive.
I think so. And I think the reason they were talking about getting rid of it, obviously, was because of the streaming services and so many streaming services out there. But now people are finding out that your movies or whatever it is are not necessarily going to be on those streaming services forever.
Yeah. And even when you buy a movie on Amazon, you don't own that movie. And as soon as their contract with it expires, you just, the $20 you spent to buy it, it's gone.
That's right.
Yeah, and I'd rather spend $5, $10, $15 on a DVD than have to pay that over and over again digitally when I want to watch it.
Absolutely. All right, we're getting close to the end here, so I have another question for you. Starting off and getting started as a filmmaker, because like I told you, we have a lot of filmmakers and stuff that watch this show. So I read a lot of books. Okay, the one book that I can really remember is Robert Rodriguez's book Rebel Without a Crew. And that was one of those things, because I think you mentioned that you never went to film school. And in that book, that's one of the first things he says. Instead of using that money for film school, use that money and go make a movie, because you're going to learn more on set than you'll ever learn in the classroom. And I try to tell everybody that. I mean, film school's great, but I'd much rather just get out there and learn on set.
Agreed. Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, that's, so many people. I mentor a lot of people, and we get a lot of people in, because I love to teach, and we've got a lot of people that are like, I learned so much more being on a set than I ever did in film school, even to the point that my nephew, who's a screenwriter, he's actually got 6 movies produced. A couple of them were mine, even when Matthew, all the way through his 4 years of college, when we were making a movie, he'd come out during spring breaks and the summers and all of that. And his professors found out, and the professor's like, hey, every opportunity you get to go work with your Uncle John, go. We'll tell you what you need to do. You turn in your assignments, but go, because you're going to learn 100 times more there on set than you're ever going to learn here sitting here in class. And I think there's, depending on what it is, I mean, there's obviously technical skills that you do learn, depending on what you want your craft or trade to be. But yeah, you're going to always learn, get out there and make. I mean, that's exactly what, I read books and I went out and made, and I continue 27 years later, 26 years later, I continue teaching myself every single day, learning new things.
And it's not just learning what you're going to learn on set, but to me, it's also the networking. Finding out people that you can work with behind the camera, talking to actors and actresses and everything else, and making connections that you may end up using for your next film. I mean, some of the networking possibilities are amazing just because you're there and you're involved.
This entire industry is based on networking. I can say the entire industry is based on networking. I mean, 80% of the jobs I've gotten have been because of networking, and because person A, who I met, talked to person B, who talked to person C, and said, hey, I heard about this guy. It is all about networking.
Let me ask you another question. Do you do many conventions at all?
No. And I if I get invited, I go. But I'm also not out there pushing myself. And I mean, gratefully, I've got so much work that it's actually difficult to do them also.
I'm going to say, Rick, he's doing 4 films right now. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He doesn't have time for that crap.
But I love conventions. I do love going out to conventions though.
You go to the Jon Keeyes booth and he's got a mannequin sitting back there with glasses on.
John's here.
John's here somewhere. Yeah. All right. So in closing, can you give any advice to any up-and-coming filmmakers that maybe like one big piece of advice that you learned fairly early on, or whatever it is that you would definitely want to pass on to somebody?
I mean, it's pick up a camera, go out and make something, and never give up. That's my big thing. Never, ever give up. No matter how hard it feels, no matter how many obstacles you face, if you love this, if this is your passion, just never give up.
I like that. Pick up a camera and go film something, because before you can make it good, you first have to make it.
Yep,
absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
John, it was an absolute pleasure. We could sit here for another hour. I looked up and saw it was 5:50 or 5:55 minutes in, and I told you I wanted to get you out right at an hour, so we did it.
Beautiful. This is a blast. I had such a great time.
Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
like we talked about earlier, we're going to go ahead and bump you off screen real quick. Don't go by. I want to say goodbye real quick, okay?
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you. Man, I'm telling you, luckily I looked at the clock because I had all these other questions lined up because it was just flowing so good.
I wasn't going to say anything to you. I was going to let you keep going.
Thanks for letting me. You just let me roll right over. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. It was another great show. It's going to be archived on YouTube as usual. You'll be able to go to the IndieHorrorJunkie.com website, go to podcasts. You can click on it there so people can go back and look at it because there was a lot of interesting and great stuff that he passed along for up and coming filmmakers. So to me, that's the best part about this podcast is trying to get the information out there that are going to help people because I'm all about bringing people together. I'm all about helping in any way that I can. So if we can get people like John, who's been through it all for years and years, be able to pass on information and stories like that, it's worth every moment. So
guy's doing a lot of cool things too, man. He's doing a lot of cool stuff.
Absolutely. All right. Well, once again, thank you very much. We'll have some more coming up here soon. We got 2 more podcasts coming up in August. So check the website, and I'm sure I'll be blabbing about it on Facebook. So take care, everybody.